Welcome back, everyone. World Baseball News for the week of November 21st. Big signing in Japan, MVP given out in Korea, another Winter League season opener, and lots of big news from the WBC. Shohei Ohtani, in the same week he was voted runner-up for American League MVP, 1 year after winning the MVP, announced his commitment to play for Japan in the 2023 World Baseball Classic. One of the best, if not the best player in MLB over the last 2 seasons. A two-way star who is one of MLB's best hitters and pitchers. There's no one else like him. Not sure exactly what his role is going to be, though. Of course, he'll be the team's DH, and he said a few weeks back that he may consider being the team's closer for Team Japan. But he didn't rule out being a starting pitcher either. And the best thing about his commitment is it now sets up a possible dream scenario where you have Ohtani on the mound pitching to LA Angels teammate Mike Trout in a WBC final between Japan and Team USA. 2 more Major League players may soon be joining Japan. Multiple sources confirm that invitations will be extended to Stephen Kwan and Lars Nootbaar. What makes this a big deal is that neither one of them was born in Japan. If they join the team, it would be the first time players born and raised outside of Japan play for the team. And in a major historical first, Team Cuba released its preliminary 50-man roster, and it included 2 Major League players, Yoan Moncada and Luis Robert, both of the Chicago White Sox. They still need the okay from the White Sox organization, but this was the first time players who had defected from the island were invited back to play for the Cuban national team once again. Later in the week, more names started pouring in for Cuba. Left-handed pitcher Roenis Elias committed to play. He saw limited time last season for the Mariners. 7 games, 7 2/3 innings, ERA .352. He is now a free agent. Third baseman Andy Ibanez played in 40 games for the Tigers. 2 former Major League players, outfielder Yoenis Cespedes and pitcher Onelki Garcia, both are playing in LIDOM right now for Águilas Cibaeñas. And a couple LMP stars, hitter Josuan Hernandez and pitcher Elian Leiva. Up until now, Cuban baseball had a policy of not allowing defectors onto the national team, but after disappointing international results and a large number of defections from national team players in recent years, they appear to be letting go of that policy and working towards a united Cuban team, made up of both players who left the island and those who stayed. Team Korea announced their 50-man preliminary roster. All the best in the KBO are there, all except Heroes pitcher Woo Jin-an, who's been in some trouble. Former Major Leaguers now in the KBO include pitcher Kwang Hyun Kim and outfielder Hyun-Soo Kim. Shin-Soo Choo is not on the roster. Active Major Leaguers Padres shortstop Ha-Sung Kim, Red Sox outfielder Rob Refsnyder, Pirates first baseman Ji-Man Choi, and Cardinals infielder Tommy Edman. 22-year-old first baseman Tristan Casas has been added to the roster for Puerto Rico. Casas was a member of the USA's silver medal team at last year's Olympics. Last summer he made his Major League debut with the Boston Red Sox, hitting 5 home runs in 27 games. A few managers were named for WBC teams. Ernie Witt will manage Team Canada. No surprise there, he's been the national team manager since 2004, which has included all 4 WBCs. Benjamin Gill is the manager for Team Mexico. Gill is the infield coach for the LA Angels. He's had a lot of success as a manager in Mexico, where he's won 4 LMP titles with Tomateros de Culiacan. But his first assignment as national team manager at last year's Olympics didn't go so well. Mexico went 0-3 and became the first team to get eliminated. And Holbert Cabrera will manage Team Colombia. Cabrera played 8 years in MLB, 2 in NPB. He's the older brother of former Major League shortstop Orlando Cabrera. Luis Urueta was the previous manager for Colombia, managing them in the 2013 and 2017 WBCs. But he was just hired as Miami Marlins bench coach, and he stepped down as Colombia's manager. NPB news, usually pretty quiet in Japan this time of year, but this offseason we've got some big names changing teams. The Oryx Buffaloes announced that they will post Masataka Yoshida sometime between now and December 15th, and since they'll be losing their best hitter, they went out and grabbed the best free agent on the market. Former Seibu Lions catcher Tomiya Mori was signed by the Buffaloes for 4 years, $11 million. 27-year-old Mori slashed .251, .328, .391 in 102 games for the Lions this year. His OPS fell from .889 in 2021 to .718 this year, but he's still one of the best hitting catchers out there. The Rakuten Eagles traded 36-year-old right-hander Hideaki Wakui to the Chunichi Dragons for 32-year-old infielder Toshiki Abe. Wakui has had a great career and still looked pretty good this year. 10 games, 56 innings, ERA .354. Abe was one of the best hitters for the Dragons with a line of .270, .338, .397. This doesn't really seem to make sense for the Dragons. They already had good pitching, don't need any more. They need hitters, and they just unloaded one of the best they had. In Korea, now that the KBO season is over with, it's time to hand out the awards. The MVP, no surprise here, was given to Jung-Hoo Lee of the Kiwoom Heroes. Lee, only 24, led the league in batting, .349, on-base percentage, .421, slugging, .575, OPS, .996, RBI, 113, and triples with 10. Also 4th in doubles with 36, tied for 5th in home runs with 23. He got 104 out of 107 first-place votes. Lee's father, Jongbum Lee, was also a KBO MVP back in 1994. The two Lees become the first father-son duo to win the MVP in the KBO's 40-year history. On to the Winter Leagues, 8 of them underway right now. In a few weeks we'll have 9. PROBEIS in Panama, always the last to get started, begins on Friday, December 9th. 4 teams will participate, up from 3 a year ago. The 3 teams that took part last year, Astronautas de los Santos, Federales de Chiriquí, and Águilas Metropolitanas, will be joined by a new team, Los Atlánticos. They are halfway to the finish line in Mexico. The season's first half ended on Sunday, which means last week's games were really important as teams earned points based on their place in the standings, before starting over at the beginning of this week. Naranjeros de Hermosillo finished the first half on top with a record of 21-14, 1 game ahead of second place Algodoneros. Yaquis, Cañeros, and Venados finish in a 3-way tie for third. For Cañeros, this is their best half-season finish since the 2018-2019 season. They were last in both half-season standings in each of the last 2 seasons. In the bottom half, another 3-way tie, Mayos, Águilas, and Sultanes. Charros just avoided the cellar. That is occupied by Tomateros. 27-year-old second baseman Roberto Valenzuela of Sultanes is the leading hitter in the LMP at this time, with a .381 average and a .507 on-base percentage through 35 games. Valenzuela has played his whole career in Mexico. In the summer, he plays for Dos Laredos in the LMB. To the Dominican League, 3 weeks left in the regular season of LIDOM, and last week we got a new first-place team. Águilas Cibaeñas won 4 out of 6 games last week to capture the top spot. They had a 2-game lead but were beaten by Tigres on Sunday, so their lead is down to 1 now. Tigres are right behind Águilas, but every other team continues to fall back. Gigantes are 7 games out, Toros 9. They were 5-2 last week, which included wins over Águilas and Tigres. Their pitching has gotten a lot better lately, still the highest team ERA in LIDOM, but much lower than before. Estrellas 10 back, Leones at 9-20 are in last place, 12 games out of first. Steve Moyers of Tigres is leading all LIDOM pitchers in wins and ERA. In 6 starts, 29 innings, he's a perfect 4-0 with a 0.93 ERA. The 29-year-old lefty spent last summer in AA and AAA in the White Sox organization. Puerto Rico, LBPRC, over a dozen games played now, still a long way to go in their 50-game schedule. No change from last week, Criollos are still on top with a record of 9-4. They lead the league in almost every offensive category. The next 3 teams are not far behind and fighting with each other for second place. Indios trail by 2, Cangrejeros and Gigantes by 2.5. Leones are 3 back. And RA12 have settled into last, record of 4-9, 5 games out of first. They lost 4 out of 5 games played last week. They're not bad offensively, but their pitching is awful. Team ERA is 5.07. 29-year-old outfielder Dairon Blanco of Leones is the league leader in stolen bases with 8 in just 11 games. Blanco was the LMP stolen base king last year. Last summer in AAA Omaha, he stole 45 bases and made his major league debut with the Kansas City Royals. A little disappointing at the plate, though. He's batting just .256 right now. He hit over 300 in the LMP and AAA and was 2 out of 7 with the Royals. A new arrival is on the way for Gigantes de Carolina. Shortstop Adeni Hechavarria will join the team on December 1st. After 9 Major League seasons, Hechavarria spent the last 2 years with the Chibalote Marines of NPB. In Australia, 2 weeks of the ABL season are done. Week 3 starts this Thursday, and here's how they're looking so far. The Melbourne Aces are the new leader of the Southwest Division, now 5-2 after winning 3 out of 4 against Perth. Perth was the leader after Week 1, but are now second at 4-4. Then there's Geelong at 3-4 and Adelaide at 3-5. Those two split last week's series at 2 games apiece. This week, Thursday to Sunday, it's Geelong at Perth and Adelaide at Melbourne. Brisbane tops the standings in the Northeast with a record of 6-2 after beating Sydney last week 3-1. Canberra is next at 5-3. If you'll remember, they were 4-0 after the first week, but in Week 2 lost 3 out of 4 to Auckland. Auckland is 1 game behind them at 4-4. Sydney's off to a really bad start, 0-4 against Canberra in Week 1, 1-3 versus Brisbane in Week 2. This week, Thursday to Sunday, it's Brisbane at Canberra and Auckland at Sydney. Sunday's game between Adelaide and Geelong was a total slugfest. Geelong won 23-11, a total of 34 runs, 36 hits, and 12 home runs. Jared Carr hit 3 home runs for the Giants. Suk Hwan Kim hit 3 homers for Geelong. Kim leads the ABL with 4 home runs for the season. His teammate Chan Wee Song is looking even better, 14 out of 27 for a league-best .519 average. He also tops the league in RBI 14, slugging .963, and OPS 1480. In Venezuela, still more than a month to go in the LVBP regular season. Last week we got a new first-place team. Cardenales de Lara went 6-1 last week to improve to 15-7 and capture the top spot. Leones, who'd been at the top since the start of the season, went 3-3 and now trail Cardenales by half a game. Tiburones are close behind, just a game and a half out of first. Navegantes are 4 back, Bravos and Caribes 5.5, Aguilas 6, and Tigres 9. ERA leader is Bravos de Margarita pitcher Jose Mesa Jr. at 0.96. That comes in 4 starts, 18 2/3 innings with a record of 2-0. Mesa reached AAA in the Marlins system in 2021, but spent last summer playing independent ball in Charleston. He's the son of former Major League pitcher Jose Mesa. 2 weeks in Colombia's LPB regular season, defending champions Caimanes de Barranquilla went 5-1 last week, sweeping 2 from Vaqueros, 2 out of 3 from Tigres, and a single-game win over Toros. They lead the standings at 6-2. Tigres are 4-3, Vaqueros 4-4. Toros, after beating Caimanes in the season opener, have lost 6 in a row since then. This week's action gets started with Tigres versus Vaqueros and Toros versus Caimanes, 2-game series on Tuesday and Wednesday. 23-year-old Tigres outfielder Jesus Mariaga has been absolutely dominating at the plate. He's 13 out of 24, including 3 doubles and 2 triples. His line is 542, 645, 833. He played independent ball in Gary last summer, where he batted .307 with 21 steals. Cuban Elite League, over 20 games played there now. Agriculturists remain at the top after going 3-1 last week, a 2-game sweep of Centrales and a 1-1 split with Ganaderos on the weekend. They are looking good now with a 3-game lead. It's pretty close with the next 4. Ganaderos are second, Centrales are a half game behind them, Tabacaleros half game behind Centrales, Cafetaleros half game behind Tabacaleros. The only team not really looking competitive right now is Puerto, 9 games out of first, 4.5 behind 5th place Cafetaleros. Ganaderos pitcher Jose Ramon Rodriguez leads the way in pitching, 4 starts, 28 innings, record of 2-0, and a league-leading ERA of 0.96. Rodriguez pitched for Camagüey last spring in the Cuban National Series. He was 11-3 with an ERA of 3.64. Opening day in Nicaragua last week, the LBPN began its 30-game regular season schedule last Tuesday. And look at these standings, they all just beat each other in the first week. Most of the games have been really close, too. Gigantes de Rivas and Tren del Norte went 3-2 to finish the week on top. Indios del Bor were 2-2. Leones de León and Tigres de Chinandega were 2-3. Monday is a day off. On Tuesday, we've got Leones at Indios and Tigres at Gigantes. Top hitter in opening week was Renato Morales of Tren del Norte, one of the league's best hitters a year ago. He is 10 out of 19 with 2 walks to start the season. And that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.